Image of the Fendahl should be a classic story. It's by Chris Booker, who wrote the excellent Robots of Death. It has a fine cast of actors who all had long careers, and it's set in present-day England, so no need for embarrassing attempts to recreate alien planets. But for all that, it's still absolutely terrible. Let's try and find out why. It's a very odd story, this one. In many ways it reminds me of Sapphire and Steel, which came a few years later, with an evil force invading an old house, and the Doctor and Leela showing up to stop it. But it's not nearly as creepy and atmospheric as that later show would be. It starts off very matter-of-fact with a group of scientists doing mysterious experiments for some reason or other. Mysterious things keep happening, such as a glowing skull. Several people die off-screen, and it all feels very vague and insubstantial. Even when the Doctor and Leela finally arrive in episode 2, they barely get to interact with the scientists. The Doctor is locked up before he can properly start to investigate, and Leela spends most of the story in a cottage talking to an old woman. The Fendahl of the title is a very vague threat. The Doctor has several earnest monologues about it being an ancient force of evil that feeds upon people's souls, but its realisation is nowhere near as effective. When you do see it at the end of part 3, it's just a very bad giant snake costume. It might have been more effective if they'd kept it in shadows, but like the monster in the last story, they light it incredibly harshly, and you can make out every fold in the fabric. When Thea gets possessed, her costume does look quite effective, and Wanda Ventum is a good actor, so if she'd been allowed to embody the Fendahl in a final confrontation with the Doctor, it might have made the story a whole lot better. But instead she never says a word, so it's all a bit wasted. Worse still, after all the build-up about the Fendahl being unstoppable, it turns out all you need to do is just throw some salt at them. And for the second story in a row, the Doctor blows everything up at the end, which is becoming a bit of a worrying trend. The actors don't help matters. Dennis Lill is usually very good, but as Dr. Fendelman, his accent goes from German to French, and then has a wander all over Europe. Scott Fredericks as Max is decent enough, with an actual believable German accent, and the scene where he shoots Dr. Fendelman in the face is quite shocking, even though they do cut away from it. But the best performance has to be Daphne Hurd as Martha Tyler, no relation to Rose as far as I know. She steals every scene she's in, and is eminently watchable. The DVD is a bit disappointing in terms of extras. There's just the one 25-minute Talking Heads documentary, with Anthony Reid talking about being the new script editor, Louise Jameson talking about how she decided to leave the show while making this story, and I can't really blame her, and also the visual effects guy talking about how they made the glowing skulls. There's also about 10 minutes of deleted scenes, all in black and white, and with the film in quite poor quality, so it looks a bit like a snuff movie. Overall, this story really didn't work for me. I can see why others may have enjoyed it more, but for me it's only worth 2. Next week it's the Sunmakers. Could this season possibly get any worse? I honestly have no idea. The next 2 stories are the only surviving stories from classic Doctor Who that I have never seen before, so it feels kind of appropriate that I'm filling in those final gaps in the month of the 60th anniversary. But I will still be carrying on these reviews going forwards. There's still quite a few stories that I haven't seen since they were originally broadcast, many decades ago, so it'll be interesting to see what I make of them through my grown-up eyes. As ever, check out the playlist in the description to see all my Doctor Who reviews so far, and I'll see you next time.